They laughed
HOA
when
built
she
12
fell,
villas on my
they mocked
property
when she
and
cried,
let them
and
finish
when the slap
construction.
echoed through the
Then
hall,
brought the deed
every
to
student
collect
thought
it.
it was over for her, but they didn't know who she really was. Before you judge someone's silence, remember, the quiet ones often have the loudest comebacks. Stick around till the end, this story will leave you speechless. Don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable real-life stories that will shake your soul and open your eyes to the truth about courage, revenge, and redemption. The story begins in Crestwood High, where 16-year-old Emma Collins was known as the shy, quiet girl who always sat alone in the cafeteria, her nose buried in a book while the rest of the students laughed and chatted. Her oversized glasses, second-hand clothes, and timid voice made her an easy target for the school's notorious trio of bullies: Jessica, the self-proclaimed queen bee, her boyfriend, Ryan, the arrogant jock, and Mia, Jessica's loyal shadow. They thrived on humiliation, and Emma was their favorite prey. It wasn't that Emma didn't want to fight back, it was that she was fighting a different kind of battle at home. Her mother was bedridden from cancer, and Emma worked late shifts at the local diner just to pay the bills, leaving her exhausted and emotionally drained. The bullies didn't know that the same girl they mocked for being pathetic was the one keeping her broken family alive with courage that no one could see. It all started one Monday morning when Jessica, furious over losing the student council election to a more deserving candidate, decided to take out her frustration on Emma. "Hey, Four Eyes," she sneered, strutting toward Emma's locker, surrounded by a crowd of laughing students. "You think studying all night makes you better than us?" Before Emma could respond, Jessica snatched her notebook and ripped it apart, scattering her handwritten notes across the hall. Ryan laughed, picked up one of her drawings, an intricate sketch of a woman standing tall in a storm, and held it up for everyone to see. "Look at this, nerd girl thinks she's an artist," he mocked, tossing it into a puddle of water from a leaking ceiling pipe. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing, just knelt to pick up the pieces. That silence infuriated Jessica even more. "Say something, loser," she shouted, and before anyone could react, her hand came crashing across Emma's face. The sound of the slap echoed through the entire hallway. A hush fell, 200 students froze, their laughter dying in their throats. Emma's cheek burned, her glasses lay broken on the floor, and her dignity seemed shattered, but only for a moment. Because something inside her snapped that day. Emma didn't cry, she didn't scream, she stood up, stared Jessica straight in the eyes, and said calmly, "Thank you. You just gave me all the proof I needed." Nobody understood what she meant. She walked away, leaving everyone stunned, her expression unreadable. The rumor spread like wildfire. Some said she was transferring schools, others said she'd finally had enough and would drop out. But what none of them knew was that Emma had been quietly collecting evidence for weeks. After years of torment, she'd installed a small camera in her locker, a camera that had captured every insult, every shove, every cruel laugh, and now, the slap that would change everything. That night, Emma uploaded the footage anonymously to a cloud drive and shared it with the local news station, the school board, and the district superintendent. The video title was simple: "What Happens at Crestwood High When Teachers Look Away?" Within hours, it went viral. The next morning, reporters crowded the school gates. Parents stormed the principal's office demanding answers. Jessica, Ryan, and Mia's smug faces turned pale as the clip replayed on every phone and television screen. The principal, Mr. Dorsey, tried to cover it up at first, calling it a misunderstanding, but when the footage showed him walking by during one of the earlier incidents, pretending not to notice, the district suspended him indefinitely. Emma didn't show up to school for a week. When she finally returned, the halls were silent, not out of pity, but out of respect. Even teachers stood when she walked in. Jessica and her gang were expelled, and their parents faced public humiliation. But Emma didn't gloat. Instead, she used the moment to create change. She spoke at the school assembly, her voice calm but powerful. "I'm not here to destroy anyone's life," she said. "I just want to remind everyone that silence protects the bully, not the victim. I stayed quiet because I was scared, but fear only grows when you feed it." Her words struck deep. The students who once ignored her began to apologize, one by one. But the story didn't end there. A month later, when Emma's story made national headlines, a famous law firm reached out to offer her a scholarship for her courage and her interest in justice. She accepted it but didn't stop there. She created a foundation in her mother's name, Stand Tall, dedicated to helping students across the country report bullying anonymously and safely. The foundation grew rapidly, supported by donations from people who had once been silent victims themselves. By the time Emma graduated, her name had become a symbol of strength. Years later, when she stood on stage at her college graduation, valedictorian of her class, she looked out at the crowd and saw faces filled with admiration, not mockery. She smiled softly and said, "If you ever feel small, remember, mountains don't shout, but they change the landscape forever." The audience erupted in applause. Somewhere in that crowd, Jessica sat in the back, unrecognizable, working as a journalist covering stories of bullying prevention. She had written an article about Emma's speech, calling her, "the girl who turned pain into power." Life had come full circle. Emma visited Crestwood High one last time years later, as a guest speaker. The school now had a new anti-bullying policy, counseling centers, and even a mural painted in her honor, a phoenix rising from ashes, symbolizing rebirth and resilience. Standing before a new generation of students, she told them, "Courage isn't about fighting back with fists, it's about knowing your worth when others try to take it away." What nobody knew was that Emma had been offered a job at a major human rights organization. Her story was being adapted into a documentary, and her foundation had just expanded internationally. The shy girl who was once slapped in front of 200 students was now changing thousands of lives worldwide. In a twist of fate, when her mother's health finally improved, she told Emma, "You didn't just survive, sweetheart, you transformed." Emma smiled, holding her mother's hand, tears glistening in her eyes. "No, Mom," she whispered, "we did." The slap that once symbolized humiliation had become the spark that ignited a revolution. The bullies who once laughed at her name now respected it. The school that ignored her pain now celebrated her courage. And Emma, the quiet girl who never fought back, had taught the world that the loudest power lies in truth, not vengeance. Her response didn't just change her life, it changed everything.